In a world at war, one man's shield is the stuff of legends, and one podcast dares to ask, what if they just said sorry? This is Super Sorry.
Welcome to Super Sorry Takes on the Marvel Cinematic Universe, the podcast where we talk superheroes and super apologies.
We're Todd and Amber, longtime collaborators who love to discuss movies, TV, and media.
This podcast started out as a fun discussion between us, and now it's the place where we get to explore the movies we love through the lens of apologies.
And we're kicking things off with the MCU because we love a flawed superhero and how they can be a reflection of our own lives.
That's right. We're using the power of apology in superhero films to help us figure out how apologies play a part in our everyday lives.
Each episode this season, we look at an MCU movie and ask who screwed up, who matured, and who could have just said, I'm sorry.
We're diving into the psychology behind the heroes, exploring their courage, and considering what their choices reveal about their own character.
We're diving deep. So if you haven't seen Captain America, the First Avenger, now's the time to grab your shield and brace for spoilers.
We're not experts, just fans with feelings. And if we miss something or get it wrong,
we are super sorry. Before we get into it, here's our recap of Captain America, the First Avenger.
You know the drill. Spoilers ahead. If you haven't seen the movie, now's your chance to pause and catch up. You can find it on Disney+. If you have seen the film but need a refresher, check out the link to Marvel's Captain America, the First Avenger site in our show notes. You'll find trailers, movie clips, and character profiles.
Here's our recap. Steve Rogers starts as a scrawny kid from Brooklyn with a heart bigger than his body, but rejection, determination, and one bold experiment turn him into America's first super soldier.
While Steve struggles to figure out who he is beyond an experimental serum, Hydra, the Nazis' deep science division, rises with a weapon that could tip the scales of war. At the center of it all, the Red Skull, a villain whose thirst for power threatens everyone Steve cares about and forces him to make the ultimate sacrifice.
The movie dives into themes of courage, identity, and what it truly means to be a hero.
Now that we're all caught up, let's get into the apology audit. It's time for the apology audit, where we each pick one fire apology that worked and one misfire, an apology that technically happened but didn't quite stick the landing.
From my count, there are only 4 existing apologies in the film, and my fire pick is at the beginning of the movie when little skinny Steve Rogers is going around trying to get into the army. One of the sequences has the army doctor saying to him, "Sorry, son, you'd be ineligible on your asthma alone." And for me, why it makes it a good apology, because it's a life-saving apology. Because little Steve Rogers, I don't think is going to make it very far in the Battle of Front. So
I did pause that shot just to look at the full list, and it is a lengthy one and also contains familial history as well. That's kind of cut off at the bottom of the screen, but there's clearly a lot working against him, unfortunately. He has the desire and the passion and the courage. He just doesn't have the physical wherewithal at that point.
Yeah. Though, too, I mean, he's a little bit later on, he kind of has a conversation with Bucky, and Bucky basically tells him, like, there's other things you can do besides be a grunt in the army, and he kind of, poo-poos that and doesn't really see the things you can do beyond just being frontline infantry person. So,
and honestly, he does other things. He's a performer and trying to get people to buy war bonds and things like that to pay for bullets. So even though he becomes like this super soldier with super soldier skills initially, that's not what they have him do.
Yeah, it's a very interesting thought experiment there. Where if he had a good body, and passed the test, that doesn't really mean that's joining the army. So having, other things out there that you could do too is also helpful.
Absolutely. It's funny that your fire apology is one of the first in the film, because my favorite is actually one of the last.
Okay.
And this is the Times Square reveal at the very end of the film when Steve Rogers Rogers wakes up in a modern day New York City, and he's processing the fact that he's lost 70 years of time and Agent Carter, Peggy. And even though he doesn't say the words, "I'm sorry," he just says, "I had a date." Like, you can tell it's filled with remorse, filled with regret, all the things that he knows he promised her that he just couldn't do. So to me, like, even though the words sorry aren't in it, like, it's just devastating. It's such a sad end to the movie, I will say. Sure, yeah. Ultimately, why it matters to me and why I chose it is because it's an understated apology to Peggy, but also to the life that he never got to live. And it just closes the whole film on like heartbreak and heroism. And it like just really got me. So that's why I went with that choice.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely kind of agree. It kind of hits you hard and pulls at heartstrings. I always think of when I watch it is I start thinking back to the first Austin Powers movie when he first wakes up from his hibernation. He has to go to the bathroom right away. So they wanted a little funnier ending. What's the first thing you think of when you come out of a long-term hibernation? Gotta use that bathroom.
I'm sure maybe that was part of it too. They just
the second thing.
That wasn't the ultimate thing. Yeah. I mean, well, what about your misfire apology? What was the worst one that you saw in the film?
Well, yours leads perfectly into mine, misfire, which is also at the end of the movie, which is basically the next scene after he wakes up. And it's when he listens. Actually, it's the same scene. Kind of continues on to the next scene. But he wakes up and he hears the 1941 Brooklyn Dodgers game, not the 1943 as it should be. When
Somebody made a mistake.
Yeah. Who's the... Who's checking the dates on that game notes or whatever? This seems like not the right way to wake up. You know, game being in 1941, the replay, and he's 1943 by this point. He's thinking in his mind, I think it's late 43. A little confused what's going on with this tape delayed game, which makes Nick Fury's line kind of seem a little more hollow when he says that we thought it would be best to break it to you slowly. So he was already confused and discombobulated, let alone like, how is this game being played again through the radio, which wouldn't be a normal occurrence in that time.
It would really mess with you. And it does have, the whole scene just has this creepy feel. And even as a viewer in the moment, you're like, is he with the Americans? Is he in the US? Or has he been captured and he's somewhere else, right? Because it could easily be either in that moment.
Yeah, I'm sure that's where his mind's going after seeing the Hydra base and all those kind of crazy things that they have the ability to do with their submarines and things, and wake up, and I'm sure that's where his mind went, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I kind of have a tie for my two misfire apologies.
All right.
I know this
Stealing a thing out of my book.
Yeah, I'm pulling a Todd here. My first is when Steve, Captain America, knocks down Agent Carter in his pursuit of Heinz Kruger, and he costs her a clear shot. She yells at him, and she's like, I was going to get him. Like, I was going to get the shot. And he just yells, sorry. So, like, in the moment, I suppose he's taking responsibility, but, like, he lacks the whole understanding of, like, what if she had made that shot, right? Like, maybe the story could have shifted a bit. And, like, it's so focused on his physical ability at that moment that he's not really thinking that clearly, it seems like, in terms of his mental stamina, which is partly, or not partly, that is the reason why he was chosen to become the super soldier. So that's number one, knocking down Agent Carter.
Yep.
Second one, and this is, I guess, technically my backup, because I suppose I prefer that one a little bit more as a weak misfire apology. But I did kind of love the scene where Cap asks Erskine if he saved him any schnapps. And Erskine says, not as much as I should have. Sorry. You know, when he takes the schnapps away from him the night before, going through his experience taking the serum and becoming Captain America.
Yeah, the doctor says there's no liquids the night before surgery, so he ends up taking all the schnapps for himself.
Yeah, it was a sweet scene, I guess. So, but technically, if I'm going to choose my best misfire apology, technically like the worst apology between these two, it's definitely when Cap knocks down Agent Carter.
Yeah, I think the line she says to him is, I had him.
Yeah, that's what it was.
She's locked on him. The car's barreling down towards her. You already see that she's a good shot because she hit the car going the other direction from quite a few feet. And now it's coming closer. And if she made the first shot, she definitely should be able to make the second one. And so, like you said, like if he would just let her do her job instead of him trying to be Captain America, I guess, before he's ready, the story would have went in a different direction.
I mean, he has guts. He jumps to action, all of that. But he is less experienced than everyone else at that moment. And he tries to be the winner. So, yeah. Well, let's make a call. Which of these do we think is our top apology and which is our worst apology, the misfire apology?
To review, mine was towards the beginning of the movie when skinny Steve Rogers, before he becomes Captain America, he's going around trying to join the army and he keeps getting denied.
And mine is the I had a date apology that Steve says to Agent Carter in quiet, devastating acknowledgement at the very end of the film when he realizes it's 70 years later and he's missed the date and his whole life has passed.
Yeah, I think this is a tougher one than usual for us. I mean, mine is, like I said, is a life-saving sorry apology, keeping him out of the army so he doesn't get killed, the little weakling Steve Rogers. So I think that's a pretty big thing that happens there to keep him alive. Yours definitely has a little bit more the feels to it, but I don't know.
I'm not sure, honestly, either of these are like great apologies. Like the doctor for yours says he's sorry that he can't let him enter, right? Yeah. But he's not really sorry. It's a way of saying like, sorry, you can't get what you want. I can't let you in.
Yeah, that's true.
And even though I love this one with Steve, like he doesn't technically apologize, though he is like full of regret for sure. And I think he wishes he could probably apologize, but like there's no opportunity for him to do that. So I don't know. I'm going to still hold out for mine because I think that it is the culmination of the whole film, right? So even though he doesn't say he's sorry, not only is that moment just like devastating, you feel for Steve, you then know that there's this whole next step ahead of him because he's there with Nick Fury. So even though we haven't talked about the other films yet, there's a foreboding of what's ahead. And certainly this will play out in future films. This is not the end of this story.
I think that you bring up a good point about how it's kind of kicks off some of the storylines in the future, so it has a little more impact to the Marvel Cinematic Universe to come. So I would agree that yours is probably the top fire apology.
Yes, I got it. I got it. All right, and then let's discuss quickly our misfire apologies. So my misfire apology is when Steve knocks down Agent Carter in his chase after Heinz Kruger, and Agent Carter had the shot, and he knocked her down to save her, but she would have gotten the shot off for sure.
And mine's when Nick Fury, the end of the film, says to Steve Rogers, "I'm sorry about that show back there. We thought it'd be best to break it to you slowly." And that's when they're mistakenly playing the 1941 Brooklyn Dodgers baseball game instead of what would be probably more appropriate time, I think in 1943.
Yeah, I mean, it's a moment, right? And obviously it leans into the moment where he shows so much regret for missing out on his life in Agent Carter. But I mean, Nick Fury, I suppose he's sorry to Cap, but he's probably truly just sorry that they chose the wrong game.
Yeah, him or somebody didn't do their homework and think through the alternate things. Yeah, I mean, for me, I think I have yours as my number 2 misfire. So I definitely thought yours was pretty important enough to be my backup misfire.
All right, I'm taking it then.
So I think if that close, I think that's maybe a deciding factor. I think it definitely had yours much higher up on the board than you probably had mine. So
I didn't even have yours on the board.
Well, there we go.
All right. Well, we will post our top fire apology and our top misfire apology. So our best apology and our worst apology in the film. We'll post it up on social media and you tell us what you think. Did we get it right? Did we get it wrong? Or do you think that there's a better choice out there? Up next, apologies that could have been, aka the Super Sorry Verse. This is where we imagine the apologies that never happened, but maybe should have. So we've covered the apologies that actually made it into Cap's story, but what about the ones that got lost somewhere between Brooklyn and the battlefield?
Welcome to Apologies That Could Have Been, our little corner of the Super Sorryverse, which is an alternate universe where super soldiers admit their mistakes, generals own up to their bad calls, and sorry isn't buried under layers of patriotism and propaganda.
Because let's be real, Steve Rogers can jump on a grenade without hesitation, but apparently can't figure out how to apologize to Peggy after getting surprise smooched by Private Lorraine.
In this segment, we spotlight the moments begging for an apology, the kind that could have softened a heartbreak, saved a friendship, or at least kept Howard Stark from side-eyeing everyone in the room.
We'll break down what should have been said, why it matters, and maybe even what it reminds us of in real life, assuming the Strategic Scientific Reserve doesn't classify our notes first.
Which maybe depends on how top secret this segment gets.
So what apology do you wish you could have seen?
Well, I think I'm going to start at the beginning of the movie, in the scene where the Nazis are breaking into the Norwegian castle. They're looking for the Tesseract, and I feel like it's not very well hidden. It's just kind of in a little semi-secret panel on the wall. Like, you're going to bury this under 100 feet of concrete or something, try to keep people away from it. It's just a little drawer that you can pull out and take with you. Maybe it's to be able to kind of remove it themselves if they have to move it somewhere else very quickly, so it's not buried much. But to me, it's just like, man, I think they would have done a little better job of keeping it hidden within the castle itself.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose so. What I don't know, I'm realizing in this moment, is who had the Tesseract and hid it there? Do we know that? Who is they? Like, who are the people that are hiding it?
Well, I believe that Tesseract, the people watching it in order, have already just watched the Thor movie. Now we're into Captain America. It's a reference to Odin's, I think, the beginning of the movie when he's showing up in Norway and fighting off the frost giants there. There's some, battles ensuing and whatnot. And I think that Tesseract ends up there from Odin, previous timeline of the Thor movie.
Ah, okay. That makes sense. Yeah, just, when I think about they, like, you're like, oh, they could have hit it better, but like, who is they? Who's that we're talking about? And then also, like, this is a very random church in the middle of nowhere in Norway. So in some ways, I suppose it really is difficult to find. So once they find the church, I suppose it wouldn't be too hard to find the Tesseract, but the thing that would have been difficult to find is the actual church itself.
Yeah, I mean, if they went around the globe looking for it and got to that location already, like, they've already done a lot of work, then what's the extra digging 50 feet in the dirt to pull it out? It's going to be nothing that's going to stop them. Yeah, so I guess that's true.
Yeah. Well, one of the apologies I would have liked to see also involved the Tesseract. And that was when Captain America is fighting Red Skull in the plane, the Valkyrie. And they fight over the Tesseract, and then it falls and it melts through the floor, through the grates in the floor. It obviously falls into the ocean, we find out later. But I kind of wish that Captain America would have apologized. I know he didn't really have a whole lot of time, but like, I don't think he even really said to them, like, hey, the Tesseract's gone. I know they're searching for it later, and Howard Stark does find it, but I feel like there's an apology to be had there.
I had a couple of different goals, and he wasn't able to do all of them. He was able to crash the plane and saving the U.S. from some of these bombs or whatever, but there's another important side mission that he wasn't able to accomplish, yeah. And for that scene, too, my mind always goes to Raiders of the Lost Ark in this movie, obviously with the Nazis and whatnot, and Fuhrer digging out in the desert for trinkets.
Or even the church scene.
Yeah.
Total indie.
But for that, I don't know if I'm projecting that movie onto this scene, though, but I always think of when he's holding the Tesseract in his hand, I always think of the bad guy in Raiders when he gets the coin imprinted on his hand because he picks it out of the coal and is like, oh, it's holding it. So he's kind of holding it the same way and like in pain and it's burning his hands. I don't know if that was intentional or not, but I always think of another time in this movie, I think of Raiders of the Lost Ark. Well, for my next apology that's needed, it's Steve Rogers to Bucky. So this is probably a funner one maybe. And it's just for being such a terrible wingman. So at the beginning of the movie, Bucky has them kind of going around with picking up a couple of women, showing them a good time around the expo, and Steve keeps sneaking off to try his hand of getting into the army again. So he's like, not a good friend, not a good wingman there. He's focused on the wrong things there, not on his friend. And his last night before he goes to the army, like, being a little selfish there, I think.
Yeah, I kind of had that thought too, but at the same time, Bucky was very willing to go off with the two ladies, so they didn't seem like too...
He's not too heartbroken over it?
No, he didn't seem too broken up.
I guess that's true.
Yeah.
Yep.
I have an apology I would have liked to have seen from Steve Rogers to Peggy Carter. And this is after Private Lorraine, who's a member of the service, grabs him and kisses him. And Peggy walks in. She's clearly jealous in that moment. But he doesn't apologize. And I understand he did not initiate the kiss. He didn't really say anything to her to make it up to her. He could have said, I'm sorry. It was unexpected. I didn't know that. I obviously have feelings for you, or just something, but he doesn't do any of it. And then we see her then responding to the kiss by firing rounds at his shield just moments later during a test. Hopefully she knew that shield was going to protect him.
Hopefully it was pre-tested already, yeah.
Yeah. And obviously it's made of vibranium from Wakanda, which, we'll learn more about later. But so we know it's as strong can be. But Steve doesn't know that at that moment.
No.
And I would be pretty terrified for him. And also, it was a bit of an overreaction on her part, I think. So they both kind of owe apologies to each other for those misunderstandings.
Well, the other kind of misunderstanding going on during that scene is Steve kind of misconstruing what going for fondue means with Peggy. And Howard Stark, but thinks they have more of a relationship than they do, instead of just eating cheese and bread, as Howard Stark says. So yeah, they're both got misunderstandings going on, not really communicating very clearly.
Yeah, it is kind of funny. I will say, like, I'm a big fan of cheese, but the fondue cheesy lines, I don't know, it didn't quite work for me.
It's a little forced there. Yeah. I mean, I have one for Steve Rogers to Peggy Carter to kind of continue that theme.
Yeah.
And you mentioned earlier about disappointing he's not able to make their date, but is it really necessary that he doesn't make their date? I feel like when he's on the plane at the end of the movie, he's going above the Arctic. He's probably at least half hour away from it being a problem. Peggy says there's plenty of time. He's like, no, I got to do something about it now. You already see in the scene that he's able to drop the bombs out of the plane. He knows how it works. You can get rid of the things. I mean, I guess the New York bomb missile, you can pilot, kind of flies back into the Hydra Valkyrie airship, whatever. So maybe he's thinking he can't get rid of them all, but I feel like there's other options there instead of immediately crashing the plane and not being able to make the date with Peggy. For me, it could have been some other options there. And even Peggy brings it up, but he's like, I got to do something now. Doesn't really think things through. There was at least a couple minutes to think through some other potential options. Yeah.
So the apology you would have liked to have seen is he didn't need to do this, essentially?
Exactly. Just like I said before, too, he kind of discounts her wanting to take a beat and thinks things through. And he's apologized to Peggy for not listening to her, not trying to give another option out there of how we can stop this destruction maybe heading New York's way. So he needs to apologize for Peggy for not listening to her, because I think if he would have listened to her, they would have come up with a better way to handle this Valkyrie plane flying towards New York.
Yeah, he might be all heart, but she's definitely the brains. Too bad.
Yep.
I would have liked Cap to apologize to Peggy also for calling her a dame early in the film.
Yeah, that's true.
He could have said, I shouldn't have called you that. He kind of flounders and realizes he said something wrong, but he doesn't even apologize. Like, he doesn't even say something like, oh, you deserve my respect or whatever. She's clearly outranking him. And I understand it was of the time and blah, blah, blah. But
yep. He
obviously was keen on her. So why couldn't he be apologized?
Yeah, I concur. There's some explaining to do there for his lack of women skills, but they do allude to it a few times that he's not very good at talking to women. So I guess it's not too surprising. I have another one of Steve with his people that are close to him needing an apology. And Steve to Bucky, he doesn't think through, again, maybe he's not, like I said, he's not the brains to operation of when they're on the Hydra train, through the Alps or whatever. They jump on the train, they're fighting the Hydra henchmen. There's a guy with a couple blaster backpack thing going on. He knocks him out, hits him with the shield, and it kind of continues on their mission. And that same henchman comes back and ambushes Steve and Bucky and blasts away and actually ends up knocking Bucky off the train. And he's holding on to the railing, which breaks and he falls. So again, I think he's not thinking through things in the moment as well as he could and kind of hurting those around him because of it.
Yeah. And I know later Peggy is like, he made his choice, Bucky made his choice, and you need to respect that. But maybe, I guess the point is that neither Steve or Bucky are all that smart. So maybe that's why they both make a mistake in that moment.
Yeah, I guess the second part of that, too, is Steve deciding not to jump in after Bucky as he falls to the ravine. He's the super soldier. He's Captain America at this point. His cells can be regenerated. Why doesn't he throw himself into potentially harm's way? Maybe, yes, but...
I mean, he is a super soldier.
Yeah.
So he's following his mission.
Yeah.
So, not just a super...
Friend.
Oh, burn. Well, the last apology I would have liked to have seen is just a more explicit acknowledgement from Cap, who's performing his propaganda routine for these battle-weary troops. Yeah. The 107th. Clearly, he's not reading the room. He doesn't understand what the audience has been through, and he learns after the fact. But I suppose he could have said something to someone, just acknowledging, I didn't mean to make light of what you've been through. I know he does take on saving much of the 107th shortly thereafter, and so maybe that's his apology in some ways.
So Steve, only having a couple of months on the job, but maybe he hasn't got the skills yet to be able to read the room, as you said. Yeah.
Well, that's my last apology that I would have liked to have seen. My other ones you've already mentioned.
Yeah, there's nothing left for me either. Yeah.
All right. Wow. That is it for the apologies that we would have liked to have seen. And these missed apologies could have smoothed over some bruised feelings, or at least spared Peggy the awkwardness of walking in on Cap's unexpected kiss with Private Lorraine. So what makes an apology actually work?
A solid apology takes responsibility, shows empathy, and has a little humility. 3 things Steve had in abundance on the battlefield, but sometimes forgot when it came to his personal moments.
We'll share our Super Sorryverse picks online, and we want yours. Which apologies could have kept Peggy from feeling sidelined or saved Nick Fury from juggling one more secret mission?
Next up, Damage Diary, where we tally the wreckage and ask, was crashing a plane into the Arctic really the best exit strategy?
It's time for Damage Diary, where we tally up the chaos and collateral damage left behind by our favorite super soldier and Hydra. Steve Rogers might be about courage and sacrifice, but the destruction that occurs, enough to make Colonel Phillips cry into his ration packs.
First stop, Brooklyn, pre-serum days. Not much damage yet, just a bruised ego from Steve's failed alley fights. But fast forward to the Hydra chase scenes, and we've got smashed storefronts, wrecked cars, and one motorcycle that didn't survive the pursuit. Estimated cleanup, around $50,000 to $75,000 for property repairs.
Then there's the train ambush in the Alps, Bucky's fateful mission. Hydra tech explodes, rail cars derail, and there's a supply line nightmare. Rebuilding the section of track, easily $1 to $2 million, plus the cost of lost equipment.
And we can't forget the final assault on Hydra's base. Explosions everywhere, hangars flattened, and experimental aircraft turned into scrap metal. Hydra's facility, gone. Estimated damage, $10 to $15 million in infrastructure obliterated, not counting the priceless prototypes.
And the Red Skull's Valkyrie crash into the Arctic, that's one superplane buried under ice. Recovery cost, basically infinite, because no one's getting that back.
So what's the total physical damage for the movie? Roughly $12 to $18 million. Plus, one lost aircraft carrier-sized plane and a train line Hydra will never see again.
But what about the regular folks caught in the crossfire? Like the Brooklyn shop owner whose storefront got wrecked during a Hydra chase.
In this segment, we each pick one innocent bystander, not a major character, and explore their experience. You know, the people who would be writing in their diary about the worst day of their life.
Because behind every epic hero shot, there's someone thinking, Captain America caught the bad guy, but who's paying for my shattered windows?
Let's kick things off, Amber. Who's your first bystander?
Well, I will say I have a favorite innocent bystander this time.
Yep.
And it's the kid at the dock who gets thrown into the water by Heinz Kruger when Steve Rogers is chasing him. Mm-hmm. And Steve is like ready to jump in, help this kid. And this kid pops back up in the water. He's like, it's okay. I can swim. Go get him. And I love that, like, in that moment, he was like, this kid is like, I'm good. I can fend for myself. You go do your job. I know they played it for some comic relief, but not only was I proud of the kid, I also think it's a good scene overall because it underscores Hydra's like ruthlessness that they're just going to toss kids to the side, no.
Take them hostage.
Yeah. Take them hostage and endanger them. It doesn't matter to them, but like I'm just really happy for that little kid that he was all good.
Yeah, so I think your damage diary is somebody putting something nice in their diary that something good happened, that I was able to swim and not be saved by Captain America. What's the damage here?
He got thrown in the water. Fear and thrown in the water.
Okay.
He's an innocent bystander who was impacted by Hydra. That doesn't count for you? Well, then you tell me what bystander pick that you have is so much better than mine.
So much better, so much more unnecessary. And that's Steve as he's chasing the German. That's right before he grabs the kid. Car's driving away. Steve's on foot chasing after him. And for some reason, Steve stumbles and falls through the bridal shop window, breaks all the glass and just takes off running. Hopefully he goes back and somebody's paying the bill for that broken window, but never quite understand how he's guess he's going so fast he doesn't know how to run properly quite yet, so he kind of can't make the turn and comes flying across into the bridal shop. So feel bad for that bridal shop owner. Broken glass everywhere and have no idea what's going on.
He's like a baby colt. He is not used to his body yet. He's figuring it out.
Yeah, true.
Some other bystanders who we've mentioned before, but I just want to call out again because they paid with their life, are the Norwegian villager and the church keeper who were killed by Hydra. The church is gone and they are gone, sadly. So obviously extremely impacted, but unnecessary in my opinion. I'm pretty sure they could have taken the Tesseract without killing these two.
Definitely. And probably for less of a damage being done, I think Steve Rogers at the beginning of the movie, he's at the movie theater and there's somebody talking to the screen and Steve's like keeps trying to shush him down. And the guy kind of gets fed up with Steve shushing him and stands up and wants to take the fight outside. And Steve kind of escalates the situation, which I always think like, man, Steve who's really kind of ruining the movie even more so than the guy who's talking to the screen. So I think the guy, as soon as the movie starts, he's done. He just wants to get to the movie, as opposed to Steve kind of picks the fight and takes it to the nth degree. And then everybody's like, this whole big scene happens and people going outside and like, everybody's like trying to have a nice day at the movies. And it's like the whole fight breaks out. They have to be kind of co-watchers over and see what's happening. So I think like Steve's needs to apologize for the damage being done to the other moviegoers.
I suppose, though that one guy doesn't see Bucky coming at all.
True.
Well, I really felt for the Hydra workers who were the factory laborers that were essentially slaves and totally dispensable.
Yeah, I think they're all like captured prisoners of war. I'm assuming, right? Yeah.
And that Red Skull was like, make them work harder, and the guy was like, I don't think we can get it done as quickly. And he's like, what does it matter? Work them until they're done and then bring in more. And gosh, like when you think of innocent bystanders, and obviously like this is depicting World War II and many, many horrendous things happened, but like this just raises the stakes and shows that like Hydra's evil is not just ideology. It's like systemic cruelty. It's devastating to see.
Yeah, for sure. I'm going to probably try to lighten things up a little bit with my next one here. This is Howard Stark, and I guess the innocent bystander is not like individual. It's more like the world around us. And this is when he's showing off his flying car at the expo.
Yes, totally.
He's the one I always wonder, like, where do these flying car ideas come in people's heads? Like nowadays, everybody's thinking like we should have flying cars, but where did they come from? That thought that by the 21st century we're in here now, like we should have flying cars and all these futuristic things happening, and we don't have it. And it's all because of Howard Stark giving these empty promises in 1943 that flying cars were possible and just around the corner.
We haven't seen it yet, have we? Well, my last bystander pick is going to be a little more lighthearted. It is the USO dancer who Cap steals a helmet from.
Oh yeah, the A for USA.
So he can launch his rescue mission. I kind of feel bad for that dancer not having her full costume for her performance.
Whoever's managing that show is going to be upset. Like, how'd you lose your helmet? What the heck's going on? What are you doing? And getting blamed for someone stealing her helmet.
Yeah, hard to find props on the road, I'm sure.
Yep.
And do you have any others?
That's all mine, yeah.
And that's it for Damage Diary, because behind every heroic shield toss, there's a train conductor wondering if derailed by Liberty counts as a maintenance expense.
Up next, our biggest takeaway. And no, it's not keep calm and let Cap punch Nazis.
Steve Rogers has marched us from scrappy Brooklyn kid to star-spangled hero, taking on Hydra's worst. Our biggest takeaway? You don't need a super serum to make things right. Sometimes all it takes is a straight-up apology.
Because being a hero isn't about punching harder, it's about owning your choices, especially when the world's watching.
And that's a wrap on Captain America: The First Avenger. From shattered shop windows to a train line blown completely off the map, we've covered the fallout.
We broke down the apologies that landed, the ones that didn't, and the millions in damage Hydra definitely didn't file a claim for.
But what do you think? Did we get it right? Who owed the biggest apology?
Hit us up on social media and let us know. You'll find our channels in the show notes. Or head to supersorry.com and join the Super Sorry Club.
As always, thanks for listening. Don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share the show.
Next up, Earth's mightiest heroes assemble in the Avengers. And this time, the collateral damage isn't just a few broken windows.
We're talking alien invasions, exploding helicarriers, and a battle that turns Midtown Manhattan into a smash-o-mania. Until then, I'm Amber.
I'm Todd.
And we are
Super Sorry.
Super Sorry is written and hosted by Amber and Todd. Produced by a Super Sorry LLC. Music by Jam Studio. Special thanks to Wikipedia and Box Office Mojo as serving as sources for Damage Diary. Your support helps us keep asking the hard questions and saying the hard apologies. Thanks for tuning in and sharing with friends. And if you're listening from Brooklyn, the Alps, or Hydra headquarters, we are Super Sorry.
During Stan Lee's cameo, I noticed he's a 4-star general, and why wouldn't you want him to be a 4-star general? It's Stan Lee, of course. And he has the line of, I thought he'd be taller, and that's when he mistakenly thinks the Senator's aide is Captain America, and he comes out to the stage. But did you know that Stan Lee actually did join the Army during World War II and made his way up to the rank of sergeant? He was in the kind of more creative side of the Army. He was working with Frank Capra, making training films. I think his title at some point was playwright, one of the few people that actually had a playwright designation. I just want to say thank you, Stan Lee, for your service. Or should I say Sergeant Stan Lee?
Super Sorry is not affiliated with Marvel Entertainment, Marvel Studios, the Walt Disney Company, or Disney+. As of this recording, all Marvel characters mentioned in this podcast are the property of the Walt Disney Company.